for a couple days.
Well, you can go in and pawn it for as little or as much as you want. You don't have to do it for the full amount.
Yeah.
Like you can do it for like
And I plan to go and get Rob's guitar fix as a surprise Father's Day present.
right.
And I'm like, I could charge that, but then I definitely won't have enough money to try and get my throat fixed. I should probably prioritize my voice. I wanted to get dentures this year. I was going to go to the affordable dentures, spend a couple $100 on that. Nope, voice first. Okay, so now all there is the sharing. We are live.
Yay, live.
Sorry. Go to the right page. Make sure we went live on the right page. Yep. Hooray! God, I look so bad in this light. Jen talked me into this higher res camera because everybody was like, "Oh, your resolution is so bad." I'm an old lady. I don't look good with higher resolution.
You need that soft glow of like, yeah.
Like, man, low res and put on makeup or some shit because
You need that softening glow, kind of maybe a little Vaseline on the lens, kind of thing. Is that what
right? It's like an old school airbrush, right?
yeah. Like, yeah, that's why I don't even do videos. Like that requires me to like wake up and actually, get dressed. Yeah,
I'm not.
like
No, I don't care about that.
I'm like, yeah, it's like I have to put on a shirt that doesn't have 15,000 holes in it, because I'm a guy and we don't throw away shirts. Yeah,
Right?
like, no, this shirt it's still held together by luck and a couple of pieces of thread. I think that's one of the reasons my mother would occasionally wash my. I could wash my own clothes, but occasionally she would wash my clothes, and all my less threadbare stuff would end up missing and things like that. And like, yeah, because I still have clothes from the '90s that I wear. That I really shouldn't, but I still have and wear occasionally that are falling apart. But I
Mm.
can't. I like they work fine. That means I
Oh
don't have to buy
no.
another shirt.
Of course, it's super busy right now in Statesville, and I could be making money door dashing. I just got like an alert.
Of course, I'm sorry. Do you,
No, this is first. All right.
all
Oh,
right.
I had another idea I wanted to talk to you about.
What's that?
I thought about for our like shoving it in somewhere, maybe in our cold, like behind underneath our cold opening,
Right?
is using Battle Hymn of the Republic. It's public domain. I've read some really interesting things about the history and the many times it has changed meanings and how it's been used in different causes. And I think it might really, really be a nifty, appropriate thing that we could easily grab and use.
Remember, we've been trying to get a rock band to make a cover of that. That was what I wanted to do originally,
Mm-hmm.
so
Well,
that we,
I don't
yeah.
know a band that's willing to do a cover for free.
I know.
I don't ask musicians to do things for free. It's against
No,
my morals.
no, no. I understand. we can,
But
we
I'm
can,
sure we could find a version.
we can, we can find an inexpensive, a free version of Battle Hymn of the Republic that's that's free domain or free to use.
Yeah. I know I was
And
against it because it seemed like a war song to me, but I've done a lot of research about its history. So I feel
no,
better
I know it's
I think it
I
fits us
what
now.
it would fit us and everything, and eventually I'll save up enough money to pay a band to do it. It'll be one of those things.
Yeah.
I may ask Rob Oys from and his American Murder band if I could pay them like $200 if they'll do a copy or a recording of it or
I
something.
mean, I could ask the Peculiars. I don't know if they'd be interested, but for pay,
Well-
they almost definitely would. And they
Well,
kind
it's
of
like-
rock.
Rob said that he didn't want to do it. Remember, we asked Rob about that.
Well, Rob, he's not the band. I can fucking ask Adam. And
It's like, I've got $200. Oh, well,
right, that would be a different thing.
record.
Like they get paid that for a fucking gig. They'll maybe do this cover for us.
Yeah, well, that'll probably be August. As long as I stay mentally healthy, which is right now I'm fighting really hard. So today has been a bad day already,
Yeah.
and it's only going to get worse. I have a feeling.
Well, hopefully, by the way, if I can find a way to pull this off, and I'm looking, I mean, I might try to find a way to loan or whatever. The surgery is tentatively scheduled for July 11th.
Okay.
After which I will be on a minimum of 7 days of outright complete voice rest.
Not talking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that.
Because it being the whole vocal cords on one side, what's happening is that the polyp makes it so that side of my vocal cords, because like when your vocal cords work, they vibrate, they hit each other, they...
Right.
Right. Mine doesn't on one side. It can't. It's completely covered by the polyp. So it's like I try to do a voice thing, and my voice is really low and husky. But then if I try to go up, like, ooh, it just stops because it cannot vibrate. So when they cut it off, I'm gonna have this incision down that whole side. So I have to be like just not fucking talk at all while it's healing. Otherwise, it becomes scar tissue from doing the vibrating, and if that happens, I don't get my voice back because I just turned it else into something else that doesn't move.
Just get yourself a whiteboard so that you can
I'm
write.
gonna
shit.
have to do something. I'm like, oh my god, between the dog and the new dog and the fucking kids, I don't know how to. And I'm the one who does all the like customer service, dealing with that. I don't know how I'm gonna take care of our life. Like that week, we might just fucking lose everything because nobody else here can cope.
Do I need to come up do I need to come up on my days off during that week and be your customer service person?
Right? Like I need a personal assistant. Right?
It's like you write it down. She said, "Stop that."
Like if I could get home health care covered, can the nurse come in and just like call my, everyone that I need to call 10 times a day? Probably mostly the health insurance company to argue with them about how they're wrong.
Like I said, I got customer service though. To be, I know people who are watching the stream right now, which may be nobody, but whoever's watching the stream is going, "Why aren't they doing their show?" It's like, that's fine. We haven't talked in a week.
Yeah.
But I do customer service for a living as well. But my thing is that they do this thing called voice of the customer, and I'm not like at 0, but I'm not very empathetic because here's the thing. When I started customer service, on the phones, they didn't care what the customer thought. They only cared that I was giving the proper information. Now, if you were to check my information and everything, what's known as a quality score, I was always in the 95 and 100 every time I got a quality check. I'm great at my job. It's just that it's like, someone calls me up, well, I can't pay my bill. What can you do for me? And I'm like, you've not paid your bill on time for, 3 years now. What do you want us to do?
Yeah.
It's like if you were on time and then suddenly something happens, we would be willing to work with you, but you do this every month. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, never late on anything. Almost everything's auto pay. But because of other emergencies, this pay period, like this Lowe's bill is due tomorrow, payday's Friday, and I went to try and change my due date. And when you do that, it can't be for this billing cycle.
It has to be for the next one.
Only for the next one. That's not how life works. I wouldn't be asking if I didn't need this to change right now.
But it's
And by like a day.
yeah. No, and again, if you're on time all the time and stuff like that, companies typically will work with you and be like, "Oh, we'll just waive the late fee or whatever," because this is your first time being late, or you're
Yeah.
hardly ever late, kind of thing. So I would call them and say, "Hey, look, I'll be paying on Friday. Can we waive the late fee if it happens?" And they'll be like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, sure."
Yeah, sure.
They
Bastards.
most yeah, they most likely would, but it's one of those things. But it's like so my I'm really good at customer service. It's just that don't expect me to be empathetic about my customer service. You want facts and figures? I'll be more happy to provide them for you. You want me to coddle you because you don't read your bills? You know,
Yeah.
like be an adult.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyways,
Let's do our
so
show.
let's do our show, and this is going to be a positive show. We're not going to be negative this next 2 weeks. No negativity. Well, except for the carrot and stick, which I did put up.
Oh,
All right,
did you? I don't.
I did. I
Okay,
did.
good, good, good. You put the same carrot I was gonna put.
So, all right. On a count of 3, 2, 1. Honor your mother and your father, that you may have long life in the land of the Lord your God is giving you. Exodus chapter 20, verse 12.
Quote, when I was a boy of 14, my father was so ignorant I could hardly stand to have the old man around. But when I got to be 21, I was astonished at how much the old man had learned in 7 years. Mark Twain.
Parents, don't treat your children in such a way to make them angry. Instead, raise them with Christian discipline and instruction. Ephesians 6:4. Parents, please don't be hard on your children. If you are, they might give up. Colossians 3:21.
Mother is the name for God on the lips and hearts of children. Vanity Fair, Volume 2, Chapter 2. Let's talk about parenting.
Welcome to Heresy and Hearsay, a podcast to reclaim faith in a context of political discussion. I'm Reverend Barney. You can follow me on at Twitter at Seth Roth II. You can also follow the show on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and any podcast catcher. You just look for Heresy and Hearsay. Please like, share, subscribe, follow us. Also, give us a review that helps others find us. And also, to help me today is not a dark lord but a queen, not dark but beautiful, terrible as the dawn, temptress as the sea, strong in the foundations of the earth. All shall love her and despair, Ember.
Man, if I could do that visual effect, I totally would have. Free. Hi, I am September, and you can follow me on Twitch and Twitter at 9 of 12. That's at NINEOF12. Sorry, you can also hear me on the Geek Grills and Trust Your Cape podcast. Heresy and Hearsay has a Patreon site. You can find it at patreon.com/Heresy and Hearsay, where you can go and help support us. $2 a month goes a long way to help us keep making this humble show.
So today we're going to talk about parenting and things that I'm not a parent. I don't have children. I have a nephew that I see occasionally, and I have relatives and friends that I see their children occasionally, but I'm not a parent and I don't try to raise other people's children. I was a nanny at one time, many moons ago, and I found that I am not good with children. That I don't have the temperament for children. I didn't abuse or hurt them in any ways. I just found that going into my room and screaming into a pillow is not exactly what I would call beneficial for anybody. I'm so angry. Yeah.
Don't think that parents don't have to do that. Trust
and
me.
also, yeah, no, I'm pretty sure they do. It's just that I'm like, you know what? At one time, many moons ago, I wanted to have a little girl, and I wanted my little girl to be like Mandy from the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. And then I realized I would be raising a sociopath, so I decided that would probably not be a wise decision. So I figured my choices on raising children properly was like, maybe I shouldn't. So, but Ember is a proud parent, and I do have parents who are friends. So, but I'll be discussing some Bible things, and one of the things I wanted to touch on was that spare the rod, spoil the child thing in Proverbs. It's not so much about beating your children, though that is what it's used for. It is about that was their form of discipline, but it is like our carrot and stick. You know, it is a discipline thing. Children do need discipline. They need structure. That I do know. Some more than others, but you also have to give them, as you know, that's why I wanted to read those other verses. You can't be too hard, because a child does have, from what they have to make mistakes. You have to be there to pick them as a parent, and September can tell me if I'm wrong or not, but you have to be, a parent has to let the child, as much as it hurts the parent, to let the child fall down and scrape its knee.
Absolutely.
In a visceral sense, but also in a figurative sense as well. Ever You learn more from your failures than from your triumphs, because you triumph. So what's to learn? You did it, you know.
Get
But
it
if
right.
you did it right, or you a facsimile thereof to get to the point, but it's the failures that makes it where you learn, and it's like, oh, that's not going to work in that situation, so let me try this.
Well, I didn't, and in teaching them that it is important to fail, like that kind of encouragement, like when they are discouraged and something bad happens, like, well, now you know better. Um, and it sounds so trite, but it's true. There are things you can and can't. All right, there's a lot of talk about helicopter parenting nowadays, and I thought I'm not really that, right? I purposely didn't want to be that. A lot of things, like you said, making your own mistakes, scraping your knee. I once I had some parent freak out on me because I was letting Connor. He was sitting on the floor and he was playing with like a pair of pliers. It's a pair of pliers, like, and oh my god, so dangerous! Oh my god! I'm like, he might pinch his finger and then he'll know that's not how that works. Like, I didn't give him a knife or a gun, you know. And people who are at the park wiping the slides and everything their kid touches with sanitary wipes, and uh, it, and oh no, they can't go in the sandbox and whatever. It's like, man, your kid's gonna have the worst immune system ever and be afraid of everything.
And you probably haven't vaccinated your child either. I'm
Right.
sorry.
I know, but it just seems like, yeah, they're probably the same kind of people, right?
I'm,
Um,
I really don't want this to be negative. I don't want to talk about like super bad parents. I want to
no,
talk about, yeah,
and
but
I've always tried to be a great parent, but I've definitely had significant failures, and there are things you cannot decide for. It's hard to learn. Um, Kids learn differently. Kids respond differently to structure and discipline. Some of my kids, man, they just needed to. They need more on their own, structuring and handling their own time. Um, I have another who thrives on structure, but once he hit his teen years, he wouldn't stick with any structure he was given, no matter how much we accommodated, and now he dropped out of high school. So that makes me feel like a huge failure. Um, Although I took him out and got him a job like the next day, um, and trying to help him with, other ways to get through life. He can go back to school later. We'll get him his GED. It's not the end of the world. My mother, I helped her study for her GED, and then she worked for many, many years and retired from GM with a good pension plan. So I'm not like pressuring my children in the way a lot of these helicopter parents do about having to go to college and having to, do just overachieve and 100 extra extracurricular activities and everything else. But I have accommodated maybe too much. Um, Driving them to a school 30 miles away to make sure they get the absolute best education that I've been able to find locally, and then them not appreciating that very much and not taking advantage of it has been very concerning and disappointing. And like maybe I should have just been more helicoptery. Like go ahead and make them show me their physical homework every day, which I did have to start to do with one of them this year so he could pass. But I have often taken a like you have to fail stance. They had me in for a conference, and it's like, well, he's not turning in homework and stuff. I'm like, listen, I ask him every day if he has homework. He tells me he did it, and then if he didn't, he can fail. And he needs to learn there are consequences. And me going and physically checking or doing it for him and don't tell me other parents don't isn't going to happen.
Well, and my parents were some of the same ilk. Now, I will say that I got physical discipline from my father. To quote Sinbad from Politically Incorrect years and years ago, he said, "It was a healthy fear of my father that kept me out of jail all these years." Though, so apologize. So yeah, it's so there was that. But also, my father and mother did the best they could. My mother was more equipped. My father came from less than admirable conditions, and he was doing the best he could. But I knew he loved me in his way. Now, before he got sick the first time, he may have said "I love you," verbally said "I love you" 5 times, but I knew he cared. I knew he worked hard, and I knew he cared. There's a story that's part of our family lore. My father got sick right before Christmas, and he called out, and he was out of PTO, but he because he's part of a union, they can work through that and all that. Well, his this was right before Christmas, and his supervisor at the job decided to put him in for no call, no show, basically,
Ugh.
instead of getting it properly approved. So when the check came on the 21st of December, which was going to be the money to buy a Christmas presents, it was like $20. Yeah, my father. So I am a big man, but my father was 6'7", and I witnessed him carry a large block Chevy um, engine block 100 yards in a contest. He yeah, he wasn't like Ripley strong. Like he didn't. I mean, he didn't look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was what I term farm boy strong. He had a belly and everything, but he was. I watched him. We had pine trees in our yard. Now pine trees aren't the super heavy wood, but they were fully grown pine trees. He lopped off the branches, picked up one of the logs, and carried them into the backyard. This was after a hurricane hit our area, and he asked me to grab one of the other trees, not like some branches. He asked me, and I looked around to see who he was talking about because he's walking, comes back. I'm still dragging this tree along. He comes back, grabs the other tree, puts it on his shoulder, and walks it over. He's like, "What's taking you so long?" I'm like, "I'm not you." But but my father never beat me. He whipped me, but he never put any true physical injury on me because he knew he would. But my father, so I wanted to say that. So my father went into went into his job, and basically caused the entire work floor to stop and people to turn around and like leave because they were afraid they were going to witness something.
Hello?
Also, his supervisor 2 days later decided to check himself into a mental facility because he was probably concerned how stupid he was for wanting to piss off a man who could pick up tons of stuff. So so it's but my father loved us and did the best he could. And after he got sick the first time, there was a lot more verbal affections of love, and I learned a lot more about my father. I was never very close to my father versus my mother. My brother was much more closer to my father because my father liked to hunt and fish, and so did my brother. I would rather sit and read a book and throw a bare hook into the water and be done with it. That's just who I am. But my father did love me in his way, and it's one of those. But I learned a lot of lessons from my father. I am honest. My father said, no matter what, honesty is the most important thing. And that sometimes is hard to do or hard to understand when I'm at a customer service job and people lie to you all day. Because that is one of those things that trigger me. It's because my father taught me honesty and taught me to be honest about my feelings and be good to people. Try to be the best you can to be to people. Try to help people out even if it hurts you.
Yes, I do an awful lot of that. um, I don't believe spanking is a good way to discipline children. However, I have um, given my kids a swat in the butt a couple times. I have a line there where if they're doing something actually dangerous, right?
Hmm.
Like, oh my god, like playing with the plugs with a fork, or that whole, okay, I mean, something's hot, it's going to burn them, the stove, they can learn that themselves and get a little scorched. But if they're trying to walk into the bonfire, like, whoa, 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 and they keep doing it, like, sometimes a SWAT is, but I not, the take you over my knee and beat you up for doing something you didn't understand was bad, ever.
Right.
Um,
No.
I had punishments like getting hot sauce in my tongue when I was lying. Um, but I had it happen when it turned out I wasn't the one lying. Very traumatic. I would never do that to anybody. I believe in trusting children and believing them until there's a reason you shouldn't. Um, and kids will take advantage of that as they get older.
Well,
but
once they get to the age of reason, that's when I stop trusting children.
but there's a being trusted that instills trust in you
Yeah.
that matters. Like, I think that physical discipline and stuff, it ends up instilling fear instead of respect. And not knowing the difference between fear and respect is a really big deal. And you shouldn't have to earn your children's respect is kind of bullshit to me. Of course, you have to earn their respect. And the beginning of that, as you nurture and teach them to grow, is being honest with them, open with them, and then you'll get back from them. Like, if you want them to come to you when they are scared or in trouble, they need to know you're human. You need to be honest with them, and you need to trust them as far as you can, as long as it's not going to be dangerous. I believe that, and it's worked out pretty well. I mean, for the most part. My eldest needed help. He came to me. My middle has a lot of mental health issues. We've been working through, even though there's been lying and sneaking and stuff, because he's a teenager and he got to try stuff even though you tell him not to. He was, for instance, stealing my cigarettes. And I was like, all right, listen, I know I'm a hypocrite because I'm a smoker, but this has to stop. I can't afford it. It's technically illegal, dude. You're not 18 yet. And getting addicted, and it's expensive. So get a job and then maybe smoke. And he just kept denying it. He kept, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. And he was obviously taking them, and I had to start hiding him and locking him up. And then he came to me. He was like, listen, sorry, but I'm really having trouble. And I was smoking, and now I'm having withdrawal symptoms, and I want to stop, and I need help. And I'm like, okay, see what when you get your first paycheck, we'll see what we can do. And he got his first paycheck, and we went over to the smoke shop, and he got a vape, and he has a plan to reduce the nicotine in it. I mean, he's sorry he ever started, but he obviously has a like hardcore wired in addiction gene that his father has. Um, with my vocal lesion, I just quit. I just stopped, and I'll be fine. Probably sometime tonight or tomorrow, I might get grouchy for a little while, and then I'll be fine. I just came home from my appointment yesterday, had a cigarette, and was like, well, that's the last one, I'm done. But I know I'm fortunate that way. I've always been able to put it down.
Yeah,
And some
my
people can't. Rob,
yeah,
my husband, is bad. I don't know what we're ever going to do. I know he wants to quit eventually, but he's he's at least a pack a day. And when he has quit in the past, I mean, you would think it was heroin. He gets sick, headaches, shakes, sweating, mess.
I remember, and this talking about parenting. I was older. I didn't start smoking until I was like 19. And my so I'm at home and helping out my family for, and I can't remember. I think it was when Dad was sick the first time. I was at home, and my mother kept harping about me cutting my hair because I always have long hair, and you cut your hair, you hippie.
Right?
She never actually called me a hippie, but it's like she preferred me with short hair, and quit smoking. So I was like, fine, mom. You know what? The quitting the smoking because I really like long hair is easy to manage. As far as fashion sense, I just throw it back in a ponytail and I'm done for the day. I'm going to quit smoking. So the second day, I wake up and I get out of my room, and my mother is standing there with a pack of Marlboro Reds. Back in the day, they used to sell a 25 pack where you'd have 25 cigarettes instead of 20. And it's like, son, please smoke as much as you want. I fear for our neighbors. So I understand that addiction issue. So I do that. But your parents try to help you, and then they realize that sometimes maybe the at least it's smoking, it's not heroin,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
it's
it's
like
so hard. Like, I had to go in. I was illegally, like, I mean, I was buying it because he can't even legally buy this vape. But I'm trying to
right.
help him get off of something that it's partially my fault. I knew he was stealing them. I caught one empty pack in his drawer of his in his desk one time. And I should have outright locked them all up and prevented that from happening again. And I kept trying to trust him, and that didn't pan out. And uh, that was a failure on my part. I let that trusting it go too far.
Well, and here's the thing about parenting is it's that there is no child. It just there's no child that's the same. And you are learning. Like I was much more easily placated, or by being told that they were disappointed in me for not doing something. My brother is like, yeah, whatever, so you had to do things differently for and it's like a spanking to me, back when I was a child, what that was it. I learned my lesson. Sending me to my room was not the lesson. However, the reverse was true for my brother. Spanking, he gets to go back out and play. He's done. All right, that's fine. Lesson not learned. Grounding him for a week to where he doesn't get to go out and play, whole nother thing, where he learns his lesson, and my mother is then forced to have to deal with my was forced to have to deal with my brother being grounded for a week, so but on the same thing, he learned the lesson. So each child's different, so parents are learning differently, and so if mistakes, I never if a parent's doing the best they can, I'm never upset at a parent. It's when a parent is flagrantly not trying or is being crazy about it, like the helicopter parents. There is a thing where they call free range children. This was a thing several years ago, and I'm going, is that what the term I was? I thought it was just out playing with the kids in the neighborhood. I didn't know it was free range.
Yeah, that whole
Like,
thing. I mean, but those are it's also my understanding is that's a little extremist, because like they also tend to homeschool, and it's more a because they don't want them exposed to anything structured at all because it crushes their spirit and their innate personality and creativity, and they should never be left to cry, and they should co-sleep as long as they want to, and like free range parenting is pretty, yeah.
well, it's like
It's like let them function independently with even limited parental supervision, which is their
okay.
whole like, as long as you're not gonna die, go do whatever the hell, be independent.
Well,
And there's part of that I'm on board with. My kids know how to cook. They're a little amazed when their friends can't make a grilled cheese or something or an egg. My friend Victor went to hang out with some friends that are older than him, and the guy doesn't know how to make an egg. He doesn't know how to deal with that. And now they're 15, they're 17. It's getting to where they ask what's for dinner. I'm like, what are you making?
well, well,
I
it's
think
like
that's good parenting.
my parents taught me how to cook very early on. Simple things. I remember the first attempt at cooking is I misread the ingredients. I was making oatmeal, and it said it said like a cup of sugar and a teaspoon of salt, and I reversed them.
Mm,
But it was an experience, and I learned from my experiences and everything, and I cook very well now.
yeah.
I can cook my own meals and everything. And my father, part of my father, and this goes back to a bit of olden days for us people, but my father is like, son, eventually you're going to be on your own, and you're going to have to cook for yourself, and you should know how to cook you a decent meal, because you can't always expect to be with someone to cook for you. And more importantly, women find it attractive if a man can cook.
Yep.
you know and I've tried to teach you how to build fix cars, and you can't do that, so hopefully the cooking will work. So, and and it did. My father loved cooking shows. His favorite chef was, for those who will not know who this person is, it was Justin Wilson, the Cajun chef, who talked in a very Cajun accent, though he really didn't talk like that. But he was a chef who cooked a lot of Louisiana style and Cajun style food, and my father absolutely loved watching him cook. My mother loved cooking shows too, so we would sit around the big show on Saturday mornings after the hunting shows were over, because my father would watch his hunting shows, his hunting and fishing shows. We'd watch PBS, and we would watch cooking shows. We would watch, that we would watch Mother Love Julia Child, and we would watch all those kind of. I mean, it would be like PBS would have like 3 or 4 hours of cooking shows on Saturday or Sunday. So we would watch all of them, and it would be the cooking shows on the weekends, and on the weekdays we'd all sit down and watch MASH. And that was our thing. I've seen every episode of MASH at least 5 times. So, but that was our thing. Let me ask you a question. Are there movies that are family related movies that you go, oh, I've seen that and it's a little too close to home and I can't watch that again, or it really hurts?
I prefer to not answer that question in a recording that will be broadcast.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, all right. Let's try happier ones. Like for me, what I mean by that is like I've seen Big Fish. I saw it once. I can't watch it again because it just makes me just.
I
I saw
love
Guard.
that movie though.
I watched Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and I can't. I can't. Even thinking about it now, it hurts.
Hmm.
I can't do that movie again because I had a complicated relationship with my father. I loved my father. He loved me the best he could. So it was kind of that relationship between Quill and Yondu. I mean, not to that extreme where he was, but it was that kind of, it was a complicated relationship.
Well, there is one I can mention. My dad left. My parents got divorced. Um, like 9 years in their marriage. I think I was like 7 years old, something like that. And so he wasn't there. Sometimes there was visitation, sometimes there was not, due to other stuff. And he married the woman it took him 15 years to marry her, but he married the woman that used to be my mother's best friend that he moved in with when he left. Even though nothing was going on before. And she used to have this like long black hair. So there was a time when right after Rob and I got together, I can't believe he married me. I used to look like such a lunatic. So we're like drinking beers, watching movies, and I wanted to watch What Dreams May Come.
Oh, that movie.
It's beautiful, but yeah, there's like heart wrenching bits. And I was also watching it getting drunk, and I was relating so hard to these characters, and I just had this epiphany, this mental breakdown, and I believe like that missing my dad and wanting his love was why I actually I wasn't even goth. What am I doing? I that's why I dyed my hair black. It's Jessica's attention because she took him away from me. I like lost it.
Like, oh,
Later I thought, no, I really just it looks good and I like this look. That's ridiculous, but the emotion it evoked and like the self doubt of things from my upbringing that I never had really dealt with very well.
right.
Yeah, that movie brought a lot of that out.
Now, for those who don't know, I'm talking about my parents in the past tense. They both passed away 10 years ago in March for my dad and last October for my mom, due to my father had hepatitis C when he was a child and it messed up his liver, and because of a not well done gastro bypass Roux-en-Y, when they did the liver transplant, because there was so much scar tissue in that, or so much scarring in his abdominal cavity, that it just never worked. The new liver never worked properly, and so both of them passed away. My father passed away because of a broken heart, because he loved my mother to death, but my mother passed away due to bone cancer, not bone marrow cancer, bone cancer, which means towards the end, even touching her caused her immense amount of pain. So I talk about them in the past tense, and some respect, you know, nostalgia kind of colors everything into this like gray hue. I mean, like I said, I try to be as honest as I possibly can. My parents weren't perfect, but then I witness, or I talk to friends of mine who's having family issues and stuff like that, and I'm going, holy crap, me and my brother like drew the lottery. I mean, we may have been, we may have struggled our lives financially, but there was at least love and there was respect. My parents loved each other. They were, they would kiss and snuggle on each other, into my teens and beyond. They loved each other. Did they have their fights? Of course they did. Because it's but my parents were probably the best education as far as relationships go too. And that's another thing that families that parents and everything have to see is that relationships, that your children learn relationships through watching their parents. And if you have a good loving relationship that is built on trust and love, then that's what they look for. That's why so many people talk about cycles of abuse and stuff like that. And again, I don't want to get into bad parenting. I want to talk about good stuff, and I want to talk about our, relatabilities and stuff like that. But teach. You can tell your children not to do something, or you can tell your children to be good people. But if then you're, a selfish jerk, that's reinforcement. It's kind of because they're kind of like parents in some respect. My father always loved birds. I hate birds. Birds are fine as pets, but they're not for me. My father always loved birds, and he would always get the birds that he could teach to talk. And he would try to teach them, like, hey, pretty bird and stuff like that. What they typically learned was foul language, because that's what our family wasn't afraid of foul language. So of course that's what it would hurt, more repetition. So I mean, am I wrong in that you can try to teach your children Christian values, but if you are just spewing hate all the time, they're not going to learn Christian values. They're going to learn hate.
Exactly.
And I know we're eventually coming back to this, but it's like there's this 7-year-old. I really do, but and I needed to find the story. But there's this 7-year-old kid who is raising money to build Trump's wall. That's the 7-year-old kid's not doing it. His parents have put him out there to be to be the focal point. But it's this they're basically the 7-year-old kid's raising money to build Trump's wall, and I'm going, wow, that I almost consider that abuse.
Yeah, and there are people that think that indoctrination in general, they take it as far as saying it's child abuse, and I can see in situations there it will be. I've chosen to not indoctrinate my children. Being ordained, I baptize them myself in my own, little ritual, welcome to the world. But as far as learning about and choosing faith, that's all them. And I have all the books you can need. And if not, I'll get you more if you're curious about it. But I'm not going to take them to, participate in rituals they don't understand, from the day they're born, every week. And especially surrounded by a lot of hypocrites.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I will take them over to Fifth Street Ministries, or a church function where good works are being done, and donate time and do charitable work with Christians that do good works. And that's kind of, for me, it's kind of like letting them know that not all Christians are awful, because that's what they get exposed to. They exposed to at school. These kids, the kid that the day after Trump got elected, taunted and made fun of my son for liking Hillary, and actually pushed him into the lockers and started a fight. And these are the, what church do you go to, people that start picking on you because you don't, or because they don't know you from church. And it's really kind of scary around here. I mean, when I moved here at first, the first parents I met, I was really out of place. I just got my kids in school, and then the first question everybody asked me was like, what church do you go to? Well, I don't go to church right now. I am an ordained minister, I teach spiritual stuff. And they just walk away and never speak to me again. So I'm sitting there alone at every soccer game. That's not a really Christian way to behave.
No, it's not. I mean, and Jesus talked about, that we should love each other and we should respect each other.
I don't think he'd be real keen on this baptizing him at birth and making him go.
No, because Jesus wasn't baptized until he was age 30.
right?
Right.
I
So
just
I
want to
mean,
teach people stuff, want them to learn stuff, and then just be better. Like, that's what religion is supposed to be for.
and here's I mean, I was the original my original baptism. I came forward for those who don't know about the Protestant. How we basically do it is like the Spirit calls us, which I believe, and then we go up and we say, "Hey, I want to be, I want to take Jesus into my heart and have Him rule my world." Um, and try to be a better person by being a good Christian. And then the next week, you are given white robes and you are dunked underwater. And if you remember to hold your breath, which I didn't at age 10, you come up fine. If you forget, you come up coughing up all the water that you just swallowed. But same thing. I'm 10. I really don't understand that choice. At age 20, when I rededicated my life, I understood everything that I was doing at that point.
Yeah, I am a
Yeah.
big fan of like the later baptism
Yeah.
scenario in Christian faith. I really am.
No,
Although that's theoretically that's what like confirmation is, right?
right.
It's kind of
Well,
like baptism again by choice. You are confirming the rituals that you have already taken part in, but without exposure to anything else, I still feel weird about that. And well, of course, being asked to leave confirmation class,
yeah, yeah.
we've covered. And my mom was a good parent, I think, in that instance. I mean, we stopped going to that church, and she was also heavily involved. We taught church school together. She was a minister of the Eucharist. I was a minister of the Word. We both left that bad environment because they were being bad Christians. She's still Catholic. Um, she finds places to worship that are more accepting of others, and um, gets very frustrated, just like you. More and more, last few years, she sounds like you. Like, 'cause she's also super left wing liberal, and gets really, really mad when people misuse, her faith. Like, they're not Christians, and has gotten to where she's ashamed to say she's Christian.
Well, and what I typically do is, especially like on Twitter or Facebook, when I see something like that, as I go, is like, I want to apologize for those who actually believe in, I want to apologize to you as a Christian for the bad experiences you've had. You know, some of us have been so indoctrinated by dogma versus faith, and that's what it is. It's dogma versus faith. Because it's like, we've had that discussion before. How many people who claim to be Christians, like hardcore Christians, have read their book?
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, there's a lot of atheists that I know that have read the book multiple times. You know, a lot of pagans, a lot of the people who are involved in either Wicca or paganism or whatever have read the Christian Bible. I was dating a young lady years ago, a Deb, and she they would go and minister. And she says the hardest people we try to minister to are people who are Wiccan or pagan. And it's like, yeah, that's. And I told her straight, and I looked at her straight in the face. I was about 3 or 4 years older, and she was, and much more worldly than she was, because she was a sheltered only child. Um, and it's like, yeah, that's because of the fact that they've read the Bible and know where and know that you're just reading from a track,
Hmm.
or from a script. They can quote you chapter and verse and beat you down with your own word. Unless you can talk to them in that same way, don't even bother, because they are going to win that argument every time. And you're going to come back doing what you're doing now, questioning your own faith, which is okay. I also explained that to them.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Because I'm a
but that,
proponent of like things like Bible study. I think that we should, as parents, and of course whatever Christian leaders you got going on, but I mean we're talking about parenting today. As a parent, having something like actual Bible study, which is something adults a lot of times do, and it's funny, I see people start doing Bible study when they're older and they have time to kill, and then they start questioning their faith. I've seen this at a theology on tap thing I've gone to. I've seen people like get to their 70s and start to go that now they're actually reading the Bible instead of just going to church and listening to the bits and pieces you're fed in readings, having questions about their own faith and being able to relate it better in discussions with other people about their faith. We should give our children more credit. We always should. They're smarter, they know more than you think, for one thing, to begin, just always. Until 17, 18, and then they think they know everything and they're wrong, but they'll figure it out.
Well, that's why I had you read that Mark Twain quote, because that Mark Twain quote, honestly,
Yeah.
I was like 22, 23 when I first heard that quote, and I'm going, holy crap, it's so true, because it is. When you turn 14 or 15, especially, I don't know about females, so I don't know about how women and their family and their family dynamic works, but as a male, a privileged white male, um, how it works is you turn 14 or 15 and you think you know everything, and your parents are idiots, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and it
Mm-hmm.
isn't until you experience the world a little bit, you go out and you see the world or whatever, and you get a little older yourself, and all those hormones are, die down a little bit, and you go, wow, I was fucking stupid. Like,
Like, oh, that's why they said that. They weren't just trying to hinder me, right?
right.
They were trying to help me. And as a parent, it's very frustrating years because you're like, that's when you want to start just smacking them sometimes. Mouth off to you about something like they know better. It's like, ooh, I've been doing this for like 30 years. Please stop. I'm getting some of it a little early, and that makes me feel good about how I parented. I
Right.
mean, because it took me a long time. Although there are reasons, also got a house very early in life, um, and it took me longer to find things that like, oh, okay, I understand when they did that now. Um, than I think most people, but not because I was stupid, but because there were less things that they were right about. I'll stand by that. Um, but my son, like that I mentioned, that just got his first job, and there's stuff he just didn't listen to me about. Right? I mean, yesterday. Oh no, I'm fine. I'm not hungry. I'll get something later. I'm like, you have not eaten. You're going to work in a hot kitchen for hours. That's a terrible idea. Get something to eat or take your wallet. You get a discount. You can get a really good meal for $5 out using your discount. You're going to get hungry and you're going to have a few minutes, or you can get it to go. No, I'm fine. I'm not hungry. I'm like, oh, dude. He gets in there. It wasn't 15, 20 minutes into his shift. He's texting me. Man, I'm sorry I was a jerk this morning, and could you maybe bring me my wallet? And you were totally right. And I was like, when are you going to learn to listen to me? Because it's been little things like that almost every day lately where he doesn't listen to me specifically about something. I say, hey, you should try it this way. I think you're going to need this. And then I'm right. But that he does come to me with like, you were right. Can you help me? And I was like, I'll help you this time. How about you start just acknowledging I might be right about stuff? And he's like, yeah. But the
I,
thank you from Connor when he went off to college, like I got him a little sewing kit. Keep this in your backpack. And he's rolling his eyes. And then he's texting me from the bathroom one day. Oh my God, my button came off my pants in class and I'm in the bathroom fixing it, and thank you so much. That was the best thing ever.
well,
I'm like, yes.
again, my mother did try to teach me how to sew and do stuff like that, and I can kind of put a button on, but not really. I'm really, I don't have those skills. I just
Right, but I mean, putting a button on, if you've got a needle and thread, you can figure it out enough to make it work, right?
sort of, yeah.
But it was
Unfortunately,
just the be prepared
yeah,
thing.
which as a Boy Scout, I am. It's like my backpack always has stuff that I really need, and so I get that point, but
Mine was a little weird. People are like, why do you carry such a big purse? And it's like, I got a habit at a very young age of making sure I had a change of clothes with me.
Hmm.
Yeah.
No, I understand.
I
Yeah.
never want my kids to have to feel that way.
Well, it's like, there was another young lady I dated at one time that always carried spare change of underwear with her. And I'm like, I don't get me wrong, I understand,
Yeah.
about women and stuff like that. And it's just like, okay, but are you that? Is like, yes. She kept a Ziploc bag, a big enough one for her underwear, in case there was a major accident. I'm like, oh, because she'd already had a child once,
Hmm.
and for those men who don't know, especially if you've had more than one child, if you sneeze funny or sneeze, period, you may need to change your underwear.
Or
I'm just
cough. Yeah.
or cough or something to that effect. And I was like,
Yeah.
I didn't understand that at the time, and when she sat me down and explained it, like, oh, mm, that ma-
Yeah.
and
And I'll tell you, it's man parenting. And people think men should have an equal say in all this. No, sorry, but our bodies, holy cow! Because I've birthed 4 children, and when I have a cold, so I'm like coughing a lot, I have to go out and get like poise pads as if I'm a freaking, you know,
you know,
actually aged person.
yeah, I know, I understand. I no, I get that now, and I'm like, oh, it's like it's like, like, I know that they may just come off their period, but they always keep a pad or a tampon depending on what the product they use, and they were taught that by their mother, because you never know if you may spot, or if or it could be 2 weeks before your period and suddenly that hits and you don't have a pad. That is just ridiculous.
Yeah, which actually reminds me, and I've seen that's a really good another little like just carrot out into the world. I've seen this happening in schools. Some little kids started their own thing where they've got a little locker they put in the ladies' room with some supplies in it.
Right.
That's really awesome. I was going to talk to my, I don't know, I guess we're still friends. I'm not sure yet, at the brewery, um, and see. They've got like a nightstand type, a table in their restroom.
Right.
There's a big drawer and it's got spare toilet paper in it. And I was going to ask them, I mean, because I'll give it to them. You should put a few pads and tampons in there. Would be like every restaurant, man. If you're out there and you own a business where you have a restroom, you could really save somebody a lot of embarrassment, and you don't need to make them give you change or have to go ask for change for putting a vending machine on the wall. It's not that expensive. For like $3, you can put some stuff in there and probably like really keep some customers. Any customer that like, oh my god, it's right there, that happens to them, and that and potentially embarrassing situation will love you so much for it.
Well, and this is a parent. This is partly parenting and partly other things. Is like, I don't know the education that goes on in schools when it comes to sex ed. I don't know. I know that my sex ed education was, I played basketball for 2 days while the girls were taught sex education. So I don't know what goes on nowadays in the state that we're in. But as far as like women's body issues, there was a story that I heard just recently from a friend of mine about her niece and how she got her first period, and she was freaking out because she didn't know what was going on. It was almost like that scene in Carrie,
Yeah.
and you go, "Oh," and more importantly, and it's the classic. And I know there's been so many women who's had this kind of classic thing. She was in white jeans,
Taurus.
and I don't know how many stories I've heard of that, and I'm going, maybe they shouldn't make white jeans at this point.
I was fortunate like that because I grew up in a household with just 3 women.
Right.
It was just so transparent. I just knew, what that was all the time. I mean, you see the stuff in the cupboard, you're like, oh, what's that? Oh, and you can always talk about it. But yeah, I feel bad that people's parents don't tell them. They wait for the school to do it, and kids have been getting periods like super early.
Uh,
Um, Nowadays, I'm gonna be the play on the paranoid train, but I mean it is proven. There's like a lot of hormones and stuff like chicken nuggets.
oh no, no.
So I've seen like I've had friends who have girls getting their periods at like 9, so not cool. Um, but I mean, you should always talk. I think you should talk to your own kids. Sex education in school is basically just a very physical. You're gonna start growing hair in weird places. Like they're gonna tell you the physical, how things work, how babies are made, but they don't teach things like, especially in North Carolina, like here's how you use a condom, which I would prefer to see in sex education.
I would too, but I can, I
Oh, another
see.
dad thing. Here's another good positive thing. If for the businesses out there, put changing tables. If you have separate men's and women's restrooms, put changing tables in both of them.
I will tell you a true story. That I occasionally frequent a place that I really shouldn't, because they're not known for their overall good politics, but I really do like their food, and it's the only place I can get meatloaf. Is Cracker Barrel, and I have noticed that Cracker Barrel has those in their men's bathroom too.
That's
I've
good.
no, I've noticed that. So there's like, yeah, they have some shitty politics, and they're called Cracker Barrel, but but they do have
Uh,
changing tables,
last
and
time I
I've
ate
no.
there, I actually threw up, so not going back.
Oh,
Um, but yeah,
like,
I appreciate it more, and people don't understand, and a lot of it, I mean, is just leftover from back in the day, sexist stuff. But it really hit home for me when my friend Mark, he's a widower.
mm-hmm.
So,
and
and having been a single mom, where it's hard enough to go out at all already with a child, and then you have to know where that stuff is, and you have to carry all the extra changing stuff. As a a widower, I mean, basically just homebound, or you have to go out to your car with a blanket if your kid needs
yeah,
a change, if you're in a restaurant because they don't have it. And so, I mean, that's just outrageous. And that is like, you can't say, oh, it's reverse sexism. But in that particular instance, there's an inequality that feeds into a female stereotyping and can hurt a single father. That's
yeah.
terrible.
It hurts. It hurts a single father, but it also hurts just the dynamic. I've changed diapers. Like I said, I was a nanny, and one of them was a child that was at the point of potty training, and so, but they still needed their diaper changed and stuff like that, and I would change diapers, and I got used to it and everything. Now, I didn't change newborn diapers, and I understand that it's just like toxic disaster all over the place. But still, like, I've changed diapers and stuff like that. So yeah, I can see where that would be very important to do and have, as for father side, or I men should not be afraid to change diapers. That if we're going to share parenting in that respect, that should be part of it. Is like, it should not be a woman's job to do diaper change. And again, it's one of those, from what my father said, women women find that attractive if a guy's not afraid to change a diaper either. It's like, oh, well, I'll keep that in mind if I ever have a ever have a child, dad. Thanks. But yeah, so but it's true. Women, you go to a park and there is a gentleman of fairly attractive means with a baby and doing daddy things and treating the baby well and changing diapers and stuff like that, and there are women around, single women, especially if he is like a widower, like your friend, will flock to that man. because it's because it becomes an instinct thing almost. I think it's like, oh my gosh, look, he's changing the diaper. Oh, he's using powder and wipes properly. It's like women lose their mind, you know. It's like suddenly Tom Jones is on stage, you know. I've
Well, I
seen
mean, because the reality of the situation is still predominantly handed by women, and we see more of men just handing it to a woman, and yeah.
you know, I have seen this happen. I'm going, I need to find a baby. Yeah. But that or a puppy, one of the two always. I know. I'm sorry. That was me being sexist at that point. I'm sorry. I apologize. But I'm just saying. But in general, men should know these things too. Fathers should be able to do these things
Yeah.
because
Well, and they just should. They should just take. There's that whole mental load of like the little things people don't realize someone caring for children does. A woman with or without a career is 24/7 on call and doing, you know, the mental load in my house is tremendously carried by me, and I try to talk to Rob about balancing that because yes, he goes to work and brings home money, enough money for us to survive on, so I don't have to have a job. Although now I should get a job because we're in a lot of debt right now. But just the constant what's for dinner, what's going to be for dinner, taking out of dinner, something out of the freezer, doing the shopping, doing the laundry, folding the laundry, making sure the kids brush their teeth, driving the other one to work. Like every little part of my day is taken up with what's next, what's next, what's next to take care of like a whole household. And
right.
holy crap, dude, when you get home, if you have a baby and your wife has been there, not being able to be separate from the child, because babies think they're still part of the mom.
Right.
Take the baby. You did not have a harder day at work than the woman who has been there alone caring for a human being all day has had.
Well, I remember visiting a friend, and she had a little one at the time, and she had been with the little one for God knows how long at that point, and she hadn't slept well and everything else. And I come walking in, and she is just exhausted. I mean, physically and emotionally exhausted. And I'm like, I pick up the baby and I start to play with the baby, and she, this look of relief where she could go to like the bathroom
Mm-hmm.
without worrying about the baby.
Like, oh my god, a shower.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what she did. She went. It's like, can you watch him for a little? Yeah. Oh yeah, I'll be fine. We will be fine. Won't we? We will be fine. And I
Yeah.
didn't even want to. I didn't even want to play with the baby when I first. It's like, look, I'm just going to say hi to the baby and move on. You know, because I'm not. I'm afraid because I'm such a big guy and I don't know my own strength. I'm afraid babies are like porcelain, and I'm afraid I'm going to break a child. And they're a little more resilient to
No,
that. Not
babies bounce.
you know, it's but on the same thing, it's so. But yeah, she went and took a shower. She's like, "Oh thank God, I could take a shower without fear."
Yeah.
Like, we will be fine. Will we? And the baby didn't cry. I just. But I know how to entertain children, and children are fascinated with big people, anyways. The taller the person I have found, the child is just absolutely fascinated with a tall person because they can now touch the ceiling. And they're like, oh my gosh, yeah. So yeah, so, but it's those kind of things, yeah. So in parenting, if you have a partner, it does, of some kind, and one of the partners is a stay-at-home partner, the other partner should understand that when you come home, have a bite to eat or something, and then take the child and let your partner get some rest. Let them go read a book, something like that. Take over for a little while. I know you were at work. Talk about your day with your partner, but you be in charge of the baby while you're talking about your day.
Yeah.
Those bad people over the phone don't know anything. They don't know anything about how to be adults now, do they? I mean, because the movie Three Men and the Baby taught me, if it taught me one anything, I can say anything I want to. especially to a small child that doesn't understand words. But as long as they do it like this, in a different tone, they don't really
Careful
care.
with that.
Well,
They
when they
understand more than you think. I am telling you this from experience.
so I was a nanny, but I also worked a part-time job speaking of that, yeah. So a part-time, I was working a part-time job at a record store. I know those things used to, they're coming back now, but for a while they weren't any. So I worked at a store for a while as well. And the mother and the children came to visit, and they were shopping in the mall that I was working at. And so the 2-year old is sitting in their stroller, and the music starts to play, and it's heavy metal. She throws up This 2-year old throws up horns and starts headbanging. And the mother looks down, looks at me, looks back down at the baby, then looks back at me, and I'm not there. I'm just like a puff of smoke, because I'm like, I am not dealing with this anger issue. But I'm like, oops. you know but yeah, they do pick up on stuff, but it was just absolutely adorable, and I wished I had a picture or a video. It's a little baby doing horns
Yeah,
and
the
banging
first
it.
time Connor strung words together, um, he started to sing Baby Mine, which is something I had been singing to him when he was an infant.
Right.
So he should
Okay.
not have understood and remember and had never even seen the movie. Another
Okay.
thing was when he was about maybe 2 or 3 months old,
Right.
really early on, because I was still like breastfeeding. I had him at my sister's house, and we were watching. What's the hand cutting off one? Return of the Jedi? Watching
Yeah.
Star Wars
Empire Strikes Back.
Empire. And I was like, I mean, it's fine. It's a little violent, it's a little loud, but I was sitting on the other end of the room on the couch, and they can't even theoretically see that far. Whatever. He got to be about 2, and he had a nightmare about it, and was like specifically crying and freaking out about Vader cutting off Luke's hand. And he had not seen the movies except for
That
when
one
he was
time.
a tiny infant and wasn't even supposedly able to see that far. So yeah, be careful what you say. There's more in there than we realize, and they store it. They're storing everything. They're a sponge at that age. They got nothing.
Well, it's like the classic Robin Williams bit where he's talking about his son, and he's like, "Yeah, I've got a little son, but they learned everything." And it's like, uh, I say "fuck it" in the back seat, in a little rocket chair is like "fuck it,"
Oh
and he's
yeah.
following me around, "fuck it, fuck it." Meets, go to churches, meet this. Oh, what a nice, meets this nice old lady. Oh, what a beautiful little baby. Fuck you. Oh, you must be the Williams boy. Yeah, like, yeah, I can see that. I can see that. I don't know how many times I had my mouth washed out with soap.
I had to, I
Like,
had to ban corn. I had a roommate that was playing corn a lot. First time Connor walked to the room and went, "Rat, dat, 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 dat." No more playing that in the house. I do not want the rest of those words coming out in preschool. Like, he's just getting language. Like when you can get to where, and I'm not against swearing in front of kids. I do it all the time. And I have a friend who's like super Christian. And her son kind of freaks out. Her kids say bad words. I'm like, well, yeah, but it's a bad word, and it's not malicious, and it's not, whatever. When they can judge when it's appropriate and not. They're not talking to their teachers that way. When they're playing video games and
as long as
dropping
they're
F bombs, I'm like, all right. And I hear it start getting crazy. I go in, I'm like, dude, if you use it every sentence, it just loses all effectiveness. Tone it down. I'm pretty liberal with the swearing.
But and as long as it's not like, when I get on like, PlayStation and I'm playing and all I'm hearing is racial or epithets and sexual slurs, I'm going, yeah, I'm going to mute that part, thanks. I'm just going to play my video game and you need to shut the
Yeah.
hell up.
Yeah.
That's when I go, I'm done. I'm so done
Yeah.
at this point.
So we gotta
But
move on. Are we? I gotta. I have things I need to get done
yeah, well, you're
in secret before Rob comes up.
okay. In secret before.
It's
So
almost Father's Day.
yeah, so that was so next week we're going to talk about love. Again, we're going to try to be as positive as possible and talk about love and the good things and what I believe the faith is about, and we'll talk about good things in the news about love and stuff like that.
I will put a link in the show notes for our viewers and listeners about, or you could just Google it for our carrot this week.
Right. So carrot this week is Jon Stewart, and there's multiple videos. I posted like 4 of them. Where
I watched like the whole speech. Oh.
I mean, he just lambasts because so Jon Stewart for years now. This has not been like something he does. This has been for years now. He used his show as a platform for it when he was part of the Daily Show originally and everything, where he's basically trying to get health care from Congress for the first responders of 9/11, because there's a lot of lung issues and a lot of cancer going on because of all of the what they call the pile after the towers collapsed, and these men and women just risk their lives to try to find survivors and try to find those individuals who died and everything, and they got serious health issues because of it. And Congress keeps playing around with their healthcare money. Originally, they didn't even want to give them healthcare, you know. And so Jon Stewart came to Washington again because it's up for renewal. Instead of it being a constant thing, it's up for renewal again.
Yeah,
And
it's been tossed around like a political football. They've tried to pass it off. Once they did, after years, finally admit it was the illnesses were caused by the pile. It's a New York City problem. When it's seriously, this was a result of a terrorist attack on our country, and now so they use it as a political football and keep putting like, oh well, we'll do it for another 5 years. We'll do it for another 5 years, and these dying responders keep having to go to the Hill to lobby for this healthcare, and it's absurd. And I have great respect for Jon Stewart for using his incredibly articulate and educated voice. He's not being an entertainer. He hasn't done that in years. He's not doing comedy. He's not promoting himself. This isn't a publicity stunt. This is something he has worked passionately and diligently on since it started. Mm-hmm. And this speech has a great amount of impact. And I always had a crush on him, but this, like,
one of the lines that stuck with me is like, when they were saying, when he was talking about, how they wanted to pass it off as a New York problem, and it's like, Icalia didn't say death to Tribeca, they said death to America.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is America's
and the prayer
issue.
Cards thing.
Yeah.
I almost cried there.
Yeah. It's like he was talking about how they're handed business cards like this is like their kids asking for treats at trick or treat, and I'm going, and the thing is, you pan, and most of the hearing room is empty. There's like 10 or so Congress people there, versus it being full, and he was angry as hell about that.
Incensed.
Yeah,
and grief stricken. I mean, it was a very emotional speech.
And he was amazing.
His kids are lucky. I bet he's an amazing dad, and he's setting a profound example.
Yeah, because this is something he believes in, and he also runs a animal rehab for domesticated like horses and stuff like that are, for whatever reason have been abused or whatever. So he basically rescues larger farm animals that have been abused in one way or other, and rehabilitates them, and gives them a place to live and stuff like that. That's what he's done with his money. He got a farm, and that's what instead of
Yeah.
that's what he does.
Yeah.
He hasn't put out a book in years. He hasn't done anything. He occasionally shows up on Colbert's the Late Show with Colbert, but that's only because he is so angry about something that he needs to get it off his chest.
Yeah. Yeah.
But for
He has stayed political.
yeah, so
it's just not funny anymore, which it's not.
it's not. No, it's very angry.
So you want to give Trump a stick?
Yeah. So I don't know where. So we're gonna go with the secret deal with Mexico that I've seen so many reports on, that he's waving this piece of paper that they had pictures. When he's doing a press conference like out in the open like that, he's basically surrounded. Yeah, or he's like, it's a half moon kind of situation where it's, and so there's people to the side of him, and there are pictures of this. I have this piece of paper, and it's the deal in my hand, and it is freaking blank. And I'm going, we're not stupid. We can see it's blank, like. But we have this secret deal where basically they're going to make the wall for us or whatever, and that's not going to be the case. They're not going to do that. Mexico is denied that there's any deal. The only secret.
No, he said a lot of bullshit. He can't back up without taking backlash because, like I said before, the actual public, if you put on those kind of tariffs, is who's going to be paying for them. And it's coming up on an election year, and he could not back up his own claims and pull this off, so he's acting like there's a deal. Bullshit.
Right.
I mean, yeah, they did some stuff. They did step up some enforcement down there, got their military involved and like getting fewer people to cross the border, but they were already doing that, and it did not meet the bar he set for his only way he'll accept a deal. He didn't get what he wanted, and so now he's like just lying and being secretive. And what else is new?
Yeah.
Dick.
Yeah, because he wants to be president for 4 more years. I'm like, why? Well, he hasn't done anything. Yeah. So that's our carrot and stick. We're going to start having that every week. Now again, I'm going to do my best to try to find those, even if I have to scour the earth for a carrot. But this week was really easy. Everybody on the planet was like, "Look at Jon Stewart! Look at Jon Stewart!" It's like, let me look. Oh wow, okay, let me look at Jon Stewart. Yeah, so it's like
I'll always look at Jon Stewart.
So that one was very, very easy to find. The stick will always be simple, but we will because and it doesn't matter who is in charge, because there's always some politician being stupid, or always some reverend being stupid. So we'll definitely keep that up.
We can find good ones too.
I'm confident we can find someone good.
I've known them.
So let's end this by saying thank you for joining us here at Heresy and Heresay. I'm Reverend Barney, and of course you can follow me on Twitter at Seth Roth II. You can find the show on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, podcast, or our website. Just Google us. Don't forget, we also have a Patreon page where for $2 a month you can keep this ship flowing along.
And I'm September. You can follow me on Twitch and Twitter at 9 of 12, and hear me on the Geek Grills and Trust Your Cape podcast. Thanks for listening today, everyone, and bless your hearts.
And happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day on Sunday. Get you some steak.
Yes.